The Sciforror Film Podcast. Hello and welcome to the Sciforror Film Podcast. I am Andy Walker and I'm joined this week by filmmaker Sam Mason-Bell. Hi Sam, how you doing?
Hello, I'm good. How are you doing? Good?
Yeah, I'm not bad, thank you very much. Um, we will be having a chat with Sam about upcoming films and things like that in a separate episode. But for this one, we are reviewing three horror films. Um, Two short ones and a feature film as we normally do. So you okay to just get straight into it?
Yeah, no problem.
Okay. So the first of our short films is from 2025. It's a film called Ninth Floor. This is McKay Productions. The director is Noah McKay, and the cast is Austin Garrison. It doesn't have a synopsis or anything, so there you go. Um, I don't know. I thought this was a pretty good sort of time loop sort of story. Um, I don't know if I would class it as horror, but I suppose it could be classed as that. What do you think?
Yeah, it was interesting. Thing is, because of the flatness of the location they chose with the car park, the loop didn't feel engaging enough for me.
Yeah,
And that was really noticeable, basically.
yeah. I mean, there were a few technical points to me. One of the main ones being the fact that there was a couple of scenes where he's sitting writing on a pad, and it's quite interesting because he's lit from over his shoulder. But the problem with it is that you can actually see the shadow of the cameraman over his shoulder as well, which is it was quite an interesting lighting effect, but it kind of didn't work because of the shadow. If they'd have zoomed in a bit more or zoomed out a bit more so you couldn't see the shadow as much, it wouldn't have been so bad. But I don't know. Yeah, the loop didn't feel great. Um, but no, it
No,
wasn't.
I think like the performance was okay, but again, it was very labored. It felt like early films, where you could feel that they're all into all the excitement to get it done was there and to create something different. But limitations, you could feel the limitations a little bit too obvious. And I think with inventiveness with short films and horror in particular, you need to do everything you can to make people not think about those financial limitations.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, I mean, I don't know if it's supposed to have a message, but I think for me the message is talk to your mum, because it seemed as soon as he answered the phone and talked to his mum, he got out of the time loop, which
Yeah, which again is a nice message. The idea of not avoiding your things that go wrong in your life and just hitting them straight on rather than being stuck in that loop. So it's an obvious film, but perhaps that's like what they wanted to do. They weren't trying to go, look, we're really clever, so we're going to do something inventive here. That they just thought, well, yeah,
yeah,
the beats will work from.
yeah. I mean, I've said it before. It's be interesting to know how far along the filmmaking route they are, and what they sort of do from here on. They learn from this
Yeah,
and hopefully make some other things. But, okay. The
I agree.
second of our films is from 2023, and this is called Don't Run. Um, this is by Dark Fun. It's on their YouTube channel. The film is, it says it's by S. car. Don't know who that is or anything else about the film, really. There's no other details given. There is a synopsis for this, though. It says, "Don't let this seemingly innocent toy fool you. A lone girl drives across a desolate desert, only to encounter a seemingly innocent but haunted toy on the road." I quite like this actually because it's got a strangeness to it that appeals to me. Um,
No, I have to agree. Well, firstly, it's set in a desert, which is a unique location to see in any short film.
yeah,
And it's very simple but effective. And it has all those beats that like just work. Like at the beginning where she drives past that desolate empty car. And then you get that again, that loop sort of effect by the end when the next character comes in and sees it. I like all those mechanisms. And I mean, the special effects weren't amazing. The blood wasn't the right color, but apart from those kind of things, you can kind of ignore that and just go, okay, they took a stretch of roads and they managed to make something that was kind of compelling. You know?
yeah, absolutely. I'm not sure I got the whole thing about the toy being haunted necessarily, but or that it was necessarily the cause of everything, but it worked well the way it was done. I agree with the blood. It kind of looked a bit more like paint when it in some places, but you know, it was. I thought the effect of her being kind of dragged into the car was done quite well. Um, and
Yeah,
overall,
that was nice. It was
sorry, Karen.
again, it's just those small beats. Every little small beat for just to keep you engaged was there. And yeah, overall it just worked.
Yeah, absolutely. I thought it was a really good film overall. I think odd but good, and I liked it. I liked the oddness of it. Yeah, as you say, that kind of that thing of being completely isolated, was really good, and the desert was a great setting to have it in. I really liked it.
I was surprised to see I think one of the videos that came up afterwards was there's a sequel to it. It
Oh
said
yeah,
Don't Run 2 and oh, okay, I guess because there was 2.2 million views on it, which was, again was like, wow, that's kind of insane for a short film. I
yeah,
guess it's probably due to where it's shot and the fact that there wouldn't be too much horror potentially produced in that country. Um, but again, because of that, nothing was disengaging and like a cultural, like you could connect and go, okay, yeah, if you're a driver, you've been on those experiences. It was a universal sort of experience set in somewhere uniquely different to what us at the West would see. So that, yeah, that kept it engaging, really.
absolutely. Yeah, it was definitely very very good. I will. I maybe try and put the sequel onto the show at some point and see what it's like. Okay.
Yes, yeah, yeah, same.
Okay. The feature film this week, as it is the week of Thanksgiving for our American friends, I thought we would do the 2023 film Thanksgiving. Um, this is on Netflix at the moment. It's by Sony. The writers are Jeff Rendell and Eli Roth. Director is Eli Roth. The cast is Patrick Dempsey, Toy Olson, Gina Gershon, Lynn Griffin, Karen Cliche, Neil Volacque, and Rick Hoffman. If you go onto IMDb, you can get a full cast list, but that's the main cast. The synopsis says after a Black Friday riot ends in tragedy, a mysterious Thanksgiving inspired killer terrorizes Plymouth, Massachusetts, birthplace of the infamous holiday. Um, I don't know you. I really like this film because it reminds me of the early 80s slasher movies. It's got everything in it that they had, which I really liked.
It was weird because this was the second time I'd watched it. I hadn't watched it for a few years. I really, really enjoyed it the first time. On the second time, I did not enjoy it as much. There were
All
some
right.
things that really irritated me, like the fact. It, the thing is, because it's based on the fake trailer from Grindhouse that was released in 2007. When Eli Roth did that trailer, you compare that trailer to the film you got, and the trailer that we saw was more on like a 70s trailer, with that
Yeah.
deep voice and that old film look. And that's the film I wanted to see. Whereas I felt that his Thanksgiving, the one he finally finished, was more like an early 2000s slasher with the slightly post-screen aspect of pop culture and satire. And I love satire, but I just felt that one of Eli Roth's biggest problems is that he's like in his mid 50s and he still writes for teenagers and he doesn't know how to write for young people at all. It's just so stereotypical.
Yeah, no, I know what you're saying. I did like the fact that the a lot of the effects looked, whether they were or not, they look more like practical effects than sort of any kind of CGI or green screen stuff, which I quite appreciate. I've always been a big fan of practical effects. Um, and I think there are some really good like sudden kills that aren't necessarily reliant on jump scares. You don't have that kind of big
Yes, no, I agree
atmospheric
with him.
build up to then being
What's the thing? Eli Roth knows his horror. I mean, I've seen his horror documentary series he did, The History of Horror. I thought that was a fascinating thing. It's just, yeah, like he gets all the beats and he clearly loves everything. It's like Rob Zombie to some degree. It's loving the thing you do, but you don't know how to make it different and unique. Um,
yeah,
but
I
I do
mean,
agree that the effects, it's always good to see physical effects over CGI, especially when it comes to gore. It's just too obvious when you see that less messiness to it.
yeah. No, I agree. I will say, yeah, I mean, he does have this thing where I think if you see an Eli Roth film, you kind of know it's one of his. You know, by the time you get halfway through the film, you know
Yeah.
it's one of his films. Um,
It's that sinister because there's like a meanness to it. There's always characters who are kind of mean to each other to some degree, and then he pumps it up with the violence by making the violence always a little bit comical. So
yeah,
like you can have a bit of fun with it, or you can just see those mean sensibilities come through in his work. Um, and yeah, like whoever the dude who turns out to be the killer, it's that typical thing that really frustrates me with Hollywood movies, where it's one of the most famous people in the cast that's slightly underutilized, which means they're definitely the killer at the end of the film, or they're the spy at the end of the film. Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy. That film really annoyed me because Colin Firth's barely in it, and why? He's just won an Oscar, and then boom, by the end of it, he's the spy, and you're
yeah,
just like, it's obvious because you left your biggest names waiting in the back of the movie. And I felt slightly similar with is it Patrick Dempsey?
yeah,
He's good. Isn't it? I like the authentic Boston accents and the kind of vibe of the city. You don't. It was nice to see them try to create like an icon out of somewhere different in America that wasn't just LA or New York, one of
absolutely,
those
yeah.
kind of places. So I appreciate those elements.
I've seen that
And it does look good. It's got great.
I've seen that they're making a sequel. They're in production of making a sequel. Um, I think it could be good, although I'm not always a fan of sequels to horror films, and I hope in a way if they make it and they I hope in a way they leave it there because I'm not, personally I'm not sure the world needs another horror franchise. Well, I mean, I don't mind sequels, but I think when they take it past that, when people so quite often when it's taken past that, it starts to lose something. And then when you get sort of like five or six films down the line, it's like, oh, for God's sake, can we just get to an end of this now?
Yeah, I mean, it's a weird one because everybody wants that, like, just to have their iconic slasher franchise. And I think Eli Roth obviously got Hostel already, but
Mm.
what I think too many of these ones they desperately want to try and make the believability. Whereas at least like Friday the 13th or Freddy, they just went, he's back. He's undead, he's back. And I mean, I love that kind of stuff where it just goes, you know what, ignore the logic to it. You want your
Yeah,
character to be there, have fun with it. I
I
don't
think
feel like Thanksgiving's killer. I imagine they're going to do a scream room and they'll probably have somebody else play the killer because it won't make any sense. His character wasn't engaging enough to see his bit. It was just
yeah.
him in the costume.
I mean, I feel nowadays there seems to be a lot of this thing where instead of like, if you go back to the 70s and early 80s, they made films, and then if they were successful, they would make a sequel and then carry on with it. Now,
Yeah.
pe- it seems to me like people go in with this whole idea of we're going to make this film with the intention of it being the first film in a franchise.
And well, I don't know, because like you think of Friday the 13th and Jason and Freddy again. When you
Yeah,
get into the fifth and sixth one of those films, they're shooting like 10 months later from the release of the previous one.
yeah,
So they clearly wanted to keep churning them out. And personally, I think, you have to put a lot of blame on the whole horror movie franchise boom to capitalism. They just kept watering down, keep bringing it out, bringing it out, bringing it out. But I
I
do
think
like horror franchises. I like legacy. And when you get the separation and it comes like 20 years later when you watch these films and you go, okay, let's watch Friday the 13th as a TV series on Jason's journey, right? You don't care about the victims. You care about the iconic killer. And
yeah,
that's what I find interesting in franchises. It's
yeah. I don't
just
know. I'm I quite like the idea of films that stand on their own and can just be a film on its own, and then maybe one sequel, and then that's it. I don't know. I think the problem
no, I
for
get what you mean.
me,
I mean, like,
I think the problem for me is that the whole franchise thing and the sort of like 10 sequels and that sort of thing has been so overdone that to go in with the idea of we're going to make this film with the idea of it being a franchise in which there's going to be 10 films made or something, some of the films, not all of them, but some of them lose something in that because they know from the outset that they want to carry on making it. And one of the problems I have with it is the fact that we went to a screening. I've talked about this before. We went to a screening of a film that was intended to be the first film in a franchise, and it was a pre. It was that they hadn't even arranged a full release or anything for this film. It was like to gauge audience reaction, and a lot of us felt that the character wasn't strong enough for it to be done as a franchise. But because of that, because they had that reaction from a lot of people, they didn't even put the original film out.
wow.
So so so
Yeah.
you've got this film which has got people like Tony Todd in it and Kane Hodder in this film, and you've put all this money into making this film and taken all their time and all of this stuff, and you're not even going to put it out because of the fact that you intended it to be a big franchise thing, and because it's not going to work as that, you're just going to scrap the film completely. And that to me is like, you know, such a
Madness.
waste.
That's what it is.
Yeah,
It's Yeah, it's frustrating. I mean, like, it's the same with remakes and stuff. I always say to people, like, yeah, I know it's frustrating. You don't want to have as many in cinema and stuff, but it is kind of what cinema has been built on since the beginning of cinema. I mean, they had to remake films because they literally were destroyed, right? Like, the old film couldn't last that long, so they had
yeah,
to remake the stories. And if you think of the Universal monster movies, how many sequels did they all individually get? And even comedy spin-offs with Abbott and Costello and things like that. So, like, it's kind of part and parcel of who Hollywood is to keep
yeah.
milking.
Yeah, no, I get that. I do get that. But if they're going to do remakes, I'd like to see them remake some of the. older films that had slightly like less of a budget and less good effects. And nowadays we can do better ones. So I'd like to see the remake of those rather than the big name films that everybody knows, you know?
Yeah, I mean, like it's like that new Running Man film that came out. Nobody's calling for that, but The Running Man's not a perfect film. The first one, it's good fun. I enjoy it a hell of a lot, but it did make loads of money. It's a second-rate Schwarzenegger movie. Yet you'd think that gives the opportunity to then, build on those basic foundations to create something stronger.
Yeah,
Doesn't always work though, because people still think that they're linked to those nostalgic kind of triggers from the original instead of going, well, actually, no, this film wasn't a massive success. Let's just take the original source material and do something good with it. So yeah, it is an annoying one, but then some films like you need that. You need the remake. Like Infernal Affairs with The Departed. The Departed is a fantastic film. Scorsese takes it into a whole different world, so it doesn't even really feel like a remake of Infernal Affairs.
yeah. Well,
But that's
that's the
working.
thing. If you're going to take the original idea and the core of the original film and make it into something brand new, then I think that's great. If you're going to just remake the film almost sort of wholesale, it just kind of feels a bit like, what's the point? Why
Yeah,
bother doing that? Um,
yeah. It's like another franchise that I feel really went off on a killer and should have just ended on part two. The Hellraiser films.
yeah,
Hellraiser 1 and 2 were shot back to back practically, and they're effectively so much stronger for it because it keeps that narrative with the characters and then the whole world. But then, because what's his face, Pinhead, and all those guys were so popular in America, you get Hellraiser 3 and Hellraiser 4, and Jesus, it just keeps on going. And
yeah,
I wonder with something like Thanksgiving, I don't really care about the characters. Like, I don't really, they're not the ones that I wanted to watch again in the Thanksgiving story. So I don't know outside of it making money, what is the draw for another one? What's going to be uniquely different or sell it in the fact that you go, oh, here comes the Thanksgiving killer, except from the fact that there aren't any mainstream Thanksgiving killer movies. That's it, really. There's tons of independent ones. There's loads of them,
yeah,
but
yeah,
none of the mainstream. That's all I think it is.
yeah. I
If that
mean,
came out in the early 2000s, it wouldn't have got any interest. It would have been the same as like Valentine, that film that came out. I think it was 2001 with Denise Richards and that dude from Angel.
yeah,
Back they were throwaway films, right? Like it was just, oh, here we go, we're doing Halloween, but we're doing it for Valentine's Day and Thanksgiving. Again, watching it a second time, it's incredibly obvious who the killer is as well, because of
yeah,
how much attention he puts to that opening scene. How much he's clearly angry with as in like Eli Roth's clearly angry with Black Friday and all of that consumerism.
yeah,
It really goes for it in that intro, and it's the best bit of the film. The rest of the film cannot live up to the entertainment and the excitement and the carnage of the Black Friday massacre, as it were.
yeah. Absolutely. I know. I agree with that. Yeah. I mean, I mean, it's obvious in a way. As soon as this came out, it was obvious, I think, that there was probably going to be a sequel because Thanksgiving is a big holiday in America. And they know they can make money because there's a lot of people going to go, oh, let's go out and see that Thanksgiving horror movie, you know. Um, but yeah, I don't know. I don't, it's one of those things. I'll probably watch the sequel to see what it's like, but I'm not that bothered about it, really.
Yeah, and he's doing another. This is the other thing. He's doing another slasher franchise. He's going to launch next year called the Ice Cream Man.
Oh,
Um,
there was one, was it early 80s called The Ice Cream Man, I think.
yeah, I was in the 90s
It
with
might be
what's his
90.
face? Is it Clint Howard or
Think
is
so,
that the
yeah.
two? But yeah, again, it's like, well, what, you're gonna set up another franchise, and then if it doesn't get the interest, just go back to another one. It's like it's too nostalgic. It's not fresh. It's not
Yeah.
proved. Eli Roth was way for David Lynch. He should be doing much more interesting things
There is
than
this
keep
thing at the
desperately
moment.
reviving stuff.
There does seem to be this thing at the moment of people trying to recapture that kind of like 70s, 80s slasher thing and trying to kind of build new things based on the same sort of ideas that they had then. And as you say, it'd be nice to see something fresh and something different. I mean, when it's done
Yeah, I
well,
know.
when it's done well, I think it's really good. But unfortunately, quite often it does just fall into kind of like cliched kind of tropes.
Well, it's fair. I mean, not everybody adores David Gordon Green's Halloween movies. I like him. I like the fact that he did something different with them. Like the second one, the Halloween Kills, where it's more about Halloween Kills is more like M, the Fritz Lang movie, where it's
Right.
about the people around it than necessarily Michael's. Well, it's Michael's impact, but it's yeah, what did it do to these people? How can mob mentality grow in such a crazy way because of the trauma that they've experienced in their bit? I like stuff like that, and I know there's not many defenders of Halloween Ends, but I like Halloween Ends. I think it's different. I think it's one of the best looking horror movies in the last few years. The blues and just the use of shadow work and stuff is just outstanding. But it pissed off a lot of people. I get it, but at least it tried to be different and not just another Halloween movie.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I do get that. I do. It's yeah. I don't know. It's we'll see. We'll see what the sequel brings, if it brings any more. I think the thing is, if it's not different enough from the first film, it's just going to fall flat, and people are going to go, well, why bother after that? You know.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
Uh,
But it'll sell like costumes and it'll make merchandise. And I think Eli
oh,
Roth, again, the slant characters is the bigger picture, right? It's about the scare park experiences. It's about Halloween costumes, deals with
yeah,
spirit trouble, spirit.
I can see the Thanksgiving mask being something that will sell quite well if the second film
Yeah,
takes off. Okay.
yeah,
So that's our three films. We've got Ninth Floor, which was okay for it if it's a first film, or if but it does have that early kind of feel about it. They need to kind of learn from it and work from there. Don't Run, which I think we both liked, and I think has got an oddness and differentness about it, which worked really well. And Thanksgiving, which was, I don't know, I quite liked it, but it was kind of, for me, it was a kind of reminiscence thing more than anything. It just kind of took me back to being a teenager a bit, um, which, isn't a bad thing, but I don't know if you can use that to build a franchise on. Yeah. Okay.
people keep swearing.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Sam, for doing the show. And
No problem. Thank you for having me.
I'll be back again next time with some science fiction stuff. Okay. Till then, thank you. Bye.
Bye.
The Sciforror Film Podcast.